Today we're going to be looking at what payment method is best. Should you be using cash, your debit card, or a credit card? And this is something that most people don't really consider. Most of the time, people will use one payment method more often than the others because that's what they've always done. But what you should do is look at what payment method benefits you the most and where you can get the best value. Now yes, there will be times when you have to use cash or a debit card, but most times you will benefit more from using credit cards. So let's jump right into discussing why you will benefit the most by using credit cards and when it is okay to use cash or a debit card. There was a point when I mostly used cash and my debit card because I was under the impression that credit cards are bad and the only people who buy things using credit are people who cannot afford to pay in cash. And that's a pretty common belief many people have, especially when you've grown up seeing different people struggle with debt. But once I stopped listening to all those people and began doing my own research, I began to find all the great benefits you get when using credit cards, as long as you use them responsibly. Just like many other things out there, what payment method you should use is not a one-size-fits-all. So for that reason, I don't like to say one way of doing something is right 100% of the time and doing it a different way is wrong 100% of the time. So for that reason, we will look at the benefits and downsides of using credit cards, debit cards, and cash, and I will give you examples of when using each one makes sense. Let's begin by looking at debit cards. The first benefit is that they are linked directly to your checking account. So whenever you make a purchase, it will appear on your account right away, and it will also reflect on your account balance, so you know exactly how much money you have. This is great because when you know you only have so much money sitting in your account, you're going to be a lot more careful when making purchases, which is not the case with credit cards because it is a lot easier to buy things with borrowed money and convince yourself you will pay it back when you get your next paycheck, but many people don't, and that's when they get into trouble. So if you are someone who has a hard time controlling your spending, a debit card would be better for you. The second benefit to using debit cards is you are not carrying any debt, which means you are not paying crazy high interest rates, and that means more money saved. However, this only applies to people who always carry a balance on their credit card, because if you pay off your balance at the end of every billing cycle, then you are not paying any interest, at which point using a debit card and using a credit card is the same, just looking at it from a perspective of paying interest. The third benefit of debit cards is how simple and easy they are to get and use. With credit cards, you have to be at least 18 years old to apply, and when you're just getting started, you won't be able to qualify for the credit cards that offer cash back and other features. Whereas a debit card, you get one when you open a checking account, and nowadays many teens have checking accounts, so they can begin learning how to manage money early on. Also, if you're currently struggling to properly manage your finances, you would benefit from simplifying your financial life and only using your debit card. The reason is when you're using multiple credit cards, your debit card, and then cash, it becomes a lot more difficult to track your expenses and a lot easier to overspend, especially when some transactions take a few days to post onto your credit card statement. Compared to only using your debit card, all of your transactions are posted in one place and it automatically updates your balances, so you know exactly how much money you have without having to track down every expense and make the calculation on your own. Now, there are some downsides to using debit cards, and the first downside is that your debit card is linked directly to your checking account and therefore your money. So when you're walking around with your debit card, it's like you're walking around with your bank account. So if someone steals your card information or the actual card, they can go to an ATM and withdraw money, and that can be difficult to dispute, and at that point that money is as good as gone. Also, if someone takes your debit card and goes on a shopping spree, that money is coming directly out of your account. Now yes, I know most accounts have fraud protection and you can dispute charges, but the problem is it can take a long time for the bank to do what they need to do, and in the meantime your money is gone. And then the bank isn't just going to take your word. They are going to verify everything first, and unless you can prove that it was someone else who got unauthorized access to your debit card and stole your money, then you are not getting that money back. And if this happened to someone who was struggling financially, it can put them in a worse financial position. Now, this is not the case when you use a credit card, because the money is not coming directly from your checking account, but instead there's a third party who makes the payment for you, so there's a buffer that protects your money. And if there's ever a charge on your credit card that is not supposed to be there, you simply call the credit card company and explain to them what happened, and the big credit card companies like American Express are pretty good when it comes to solving issues like this. Now let's move on to the benefits and downsides of using cash. From what I've seen, most people who still prefer using cash over credit cards and even debit cards are people who grew up during a time when cash was widely used. The downside is you are exposed to an even greater risk of having your money stolen, and when this happens, the chances of getting that money back are basically zero. Also, carrying around a bunch of cash just becomes a huge inconvenience after a while. Whenever you are paying for something in cash, you have to open up your wallet, pull out each bill, count them out, then you give the money to the cashier. And then they count it, put it in the register, take out your change, give it to you, then you have to count it and make sure you got the correct amount back and then stuff it back in your wallet. And after a while, this becomes really annoying. And I'm willing to bet that you have been in a situation where you paid for something in cash and you didn't get the correct amount back, and because you didn't count it at the store, by the time you realized what happened, it was too late. Now, I'm not saying you should never carry cash, because having cash on you can be a real lifesaver at times. I always carry at least a $20 bill in my wallet and another 20 or so in my car. The reason for carrying some cash in my wallet is that there are still places that only accept cash whether you believe it or not. And whenever this happens, it's easy to pull out a bill and pay with that instead of trying to find an ATM and withdraw money. Also, I've been in situations where a store is having problems with their credit card machine, so instead of waiting there forever while they try and fix the problem, I can just pay with cash and be on my way. Then there's been times when I just flat out forgot my wallet, and when this happens, it's nice knowing that I at least have some money in the car to pay for something I may need. So now we can move on to discussing the benefits and downsides of using credit cards. The first benefit of using credit cards is you get to borrow money for free, as long as you're paying off your balance at the end of every billing cycle. And when you do this, you will never pay a single dollar in interest, but you will receive thousands of dollars in cash back, travel points, and many other benefits. And that brings us to our second benefit of using credit cards, which is all the rewards you receive. For example, the American Express Cash Magnet Card offers unlimited 1.5% cash back. Then there is the Discover Cashback credit card that offers 5% back when you spend at restaurants, gas stations, or grocery stores, and then you earn 1% back on everything else. Plus, at the end of the first year, they will match whatever cash back you've earned. So when you have credit cards and you use them the right way, you will benefit from the rewards they offer, and if the cards you have no annual fee, then it won't cost you anything. Now, the third benefit you receive with credit cards is purchase protection. Many cards offer this feature, and this alone is a major reason you should use credit cards, especially when you're buying expensive items. For example, let's say you just bought a new computer and your computer ends up getting stolen. Well, if you bought the computer with your credit card, there is a chance your card has purchase protection, so the credit card company will cover the price of the item that was stolen. Then some credit cards will also have price protection. So if you go buy a new phone and a week later that same phone is for sale for a cheaper price, you can submit that to the credit card company and they will reimburse you the difference. Then on top of these benefits, there's a good chance your credit card offers extended warranties. So if you buy a coffee machine and it happens to break right after the manufacturer warranty expires, all you have to do is call your credit card company and they will take care of it for you. Now, the next benefit you get when using credit cards are points. Many credit cards offer bonus points when you sign up, plus you earn points every time you use that credit card to make a purchase you normally would have paid for using a debit card or cash. Now we can move on to the downsides of credit cards, and the biggest downside to using credit cards is it can do more harm than good if you misuse them. If you cannot control your spending, then you should not have any credit cards, because swiping a piece of plastic at the store is easier than paying with cash, and this leads to credit card debt, and once you're there, it can be difficult to get back out. And once you are in debt, you can end up paying thousands of dollars over time for things like interest and late fees. And for someone who always carries a balance on their card, a 20 or 25% interest rate can put them deeper into debt. And then there's also late fees, and even though a $20 or $30 late fee doesn't seem like a lot, it can add up. But again, this would only be a problem for someone who doesn't pay off their balance at the end of the billing cycle. Now, the next downside of credit cards is it can lower your credit score if you don't handle your finances well. When you're carrying high balances, making late payments, and letting accounts go into collection, that all gets reflected in your credit score. So whenever you need to borrow money, you're going to have a difficult time doing that. However, if you think about it, just about every downside to credit cards is a result of people not managing their finances properly. For example, if you budget and are disciplined about your spending habits, then you won't ever get into credit card debt. If you pay your balance off at the end of the billing cycle, then you won't pay interest. And when you use credit cards the right way, they will increase your credit score. I know there are people who say they don't need a credit score because they're going to pay for everything in cash and they will never use debt for things like a car loan or a mortgage, and that's fine. But the number of people who actually have the resources to pay for everything in cash is small. However, the thing about credit scores is they are not just used when you want to borrow money. If you're going to rent an apartment or a house, they will look at your credit score. So if you don't have a credit score or you have one but it's low, then you're going to have a more difficult time finding a place to rent. As I said before, this is not a one size fits all, so if you are someone who has debt or has trouble controlling your spending, then you would be better off using debit cards or cash until you can get better with managing your finances. But if you are someone who is disciplined about how much you spend and what you spend on, using credit cards for things you're going to buy anyways is a great way to earn some money back and benefit from everything else credit card companies offer. So with that being said, you should know and understand when to use credit cards and when you should use a debit card or cash. And if you enjoyed watching or you found this information helpful, it would really help me if you like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.